Oh, we got a commercial.
Go.
Hey, good morning. Sorry about that, folks. This is Recovery Talk. It's Thursday, 10:30. Sorry I missed you all last week, but I was down the mountain, as they say when you live up here in the high country. And maybe I'll actually mention what we were doing a little bit later in the show, but looking forward. I'm glad to be back with you. Looking forward to our guest today. I'll introduce him in just a minute. But before we do, let me just give a quick shout out to the sponsor that makes this show happen, which is Freedom Auto Tech. Freedom Auto Tech is a local mechanic shop here in town, ready to give you professional service for your vehicle, and you can know at the same time as a customer you're going to support men in Christian recovery through Freedom Farm Ministries. So, come get your car fixed if you need to. Come get some regular service work done. They're doing an AC special right now. It's not hot yet, but it's coming. You know what? I had my AC looked at the other day, and it took them 30 minutes. Thing's blowing cold as a freezer right now, so it's great. So they're doing some brake specials, so give them a call, 828-355-4434. That's 828-355-4434. So part of my not being here was also Memorial Day weekend. My whole South Florida family came up, and you may not know that. I'm from Palm Beach County, Florida. So my whole family came up, and then my mom ended up staying for till this morning. So I drove her to Asheville Airport this morning because Asheville has these really cheap flights going straight to Fort Lauderdale through Allegiant Air. If you live up here and you want to get down to South Florida, that's a pretty easy way to do it for low cost. Last time I flew down there, $54 one way. Yeah. So it's pretty. But guess what happens? I get there. I asked my mom to sit there by the car, and I was like, "Hey, let me run in and use the restroom real fast, and then we'll switch and you can go in." She said, "Sure." Come out. I get her bag out. I walk her in, point her to the security line, and go out to my car that's running. All the doors are locked. So, so here I am this morning in Asheville Airport, 7:45, thinking to myself, man, I hope I don't miss another show. But anyway, called a locksmith. I don't remember actually the company, but the guy was so nice, came by, unlocked my car real fast, and I got back on the road, and here we are. But yeah, I've had a fun morning, been up since 4 o'clock, and I'm a little bit delirious. But hey, let me welcome Robert to the show. Now, do you like to be called Robert or Rob? Or
you know what? Rob is typically what I go by.
Okay.
I go by Robert is fine. Rob is good.
See, I don't know this because I just met Rob a couple days ago, and you know what? Let me tell you how encouraging it is. See, I go to a local church here called Alliance Bible Fellowship. It's a large church here. And I've been there for about 9 years, so people know who I am. They know that I'm in the recovery community. I'm part of it myself. I've shared my testimony at that church. So anyway, somebody Rob came into the church and mentioned who he was, what he was doing, and I guess you got into a conversation about recovery with someone there, and they said, hey, you know what? You need to talk to Jim Quigley,
Yeah.
And they gave you my number. They told me, so we got connected. We sat and we hung out for a couple hours the other day, and I said, hey, man, why don't you come on the radio with me? And he obliged us, and so here we are with Rob this morning, and he's come, and we've talked a little bit about what he's going to talk about, and but I want you to know that I'm going to be learning a lot about my new friend, just like everybody in the audience. So welcome to the show, my friend.
Thank you, Jim. It's
Yeah.
a pleasure to be here. This is my first time on radio, so I'm not too nervous, but I'm ready to roll.
Mike Kelly has this way of making you nervous.
Okay.
Yeah, so you just pretend he's not there, or
I'm having an
Yeah.
anxiety attack,
Yeah.
so we'll try and keep that under wraps. Well, I think
the little bit. Let me just say, the little
Yeah.
bit I know about you. How is it like 40 years?
in recovery.
Yeah, 40 years in
a little
recovery.
Longer, probably 45.
45, so
I'm
significant.
losing track. Yeah, without drinking, without drugging.
In the mid 90s, you were actively involved in substance abuse counseling.
Yes,
right.
absolutely.
And you have Rob has his master's in substance abuse counseling,
Yeah.
and he's also fluent in Espanol.
Yeah.
So you're a
like
Spanish
that.
teacher.
Yeah.
But that's we've talked a lot about other details, but he's come to share a little bit about like what his life was like before getting in, like kind of maybe what you see, 45 years later in hindsight, getting you into that lifestyle. We were talking about even a little bit out there. And then, your journey in recovery up to this point. And, you're a guy that's, open enough, humble enough to be able to still 45 years later share that part of yourself and then make connections like we have. So.
Yeah, of course.
So you just told us you're from New Jersey. So take us back to Jersey, my friend.
New Jersey.
Yeah.
From New Jersey, and I love Jersey.
I hear it's almost impossible to live there now, right?
For cost, you can't do it.
I mean, price people out of there.
No, just the property tax and then the cost of living, and it's densely populated. But New Jersey's gotten a lot of bad reputation. Because of different things, probably them.
That MTV show did it in for them.
Yeah, I know those folks. But no, Jersey's a cool state, and it's got a lot going for it. Of course, home with Bruce Springsteen and Danny DeVito and Frank Sinatra and all these other great personalities, and it's really got more diversity than the average person knows. It's right next to New York, so I was fortunate growing up to be able to go in the city a lot and enjoy the cultural events and museums and it's kind of funny the way memories get triggered. Things that I did in New York. I remember in high school walking down the street and we're smoking joints and just taking some risks. So a lot of great stories for that. I'm really glad that I grew up in that area. And I'm also, and I tell this to people, I'm extremely happy that I got to live half of my life in Jersey and the other half in the South, because the South is wonderful. And I've lived in Oklahoma for 9 years or 8 years. Went to a Christian university, Oral Roberts University, which were some of the best years of my life. Got a chance to go overseas and do overseas missions in the Philippines and Japan and Hawaii and other places like that. And I got a deepening foundation. I think, I was thinking some of the things I might want to say. So just to tail off on the Southern thing, Southerners are so courteous as a rule, gentlemanly, respect for family. A lot of the things that, when we talk about decline of culture in the United States, and here in the high country, both of my kids went to Appalachian State here. I'm really proud of that. I'm glad they didn't go to...
You just made a northerner faux pas, I guess you could call
did?
It. Yeah.
Only one?
You called it Appalachian State.
Oh yeah, my son constantly corrects me on that. Can I kind of redeem myself?
You can.
Appalachian.
Appalachian State.
My son is he's a little bit he's the best father I ever had, and he constantly keeps me in tow. So he likes to point out those things.
Hey, look, you know what? I'm from the weird one of the weirdest parts in the country. I'm from the northern South.
Yeah,
so we get it around South Florida. There's nothing south about South Florida.
Yeah, exactly.
It's all northerners. So
exactly.
I called it Appalachian.
Yes.
I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
I've almost been trained now, so I can't even remember how I used to call it. But I used to make it wrong.
So I love the South, and for you folks, of course, it's a local. So mothers, fathers, Southerners, you're doing a great job preserving some of the values in our culture that perhaps in other places have been diluted or thrown out the window. So,
what kind of family background you got?
My family background was a mixed bag. If I'm honest, I go to adult children of alcoholics meetings, so that will tell you that there's an alcoholic in the family, the result of mental illness, there was depression, there was anxiety, there was all kinds of crazy whatnot that made me a prime candidate for getting into drugs and alcohol. I mean, when I look at, so my family was very, very challenged, and I think, as we talk to audiences, we have to understand that it's not a level playing field when it comes to addiction. And, some folks are really more at risk than others. We know that if you're the child of an alcoholic as a male, and your father's an alcoholic, you're 4 times more likely to use. We know that depression is a kissing cousin to alcoholism. We know that so is anxiety. We know that these all get jumbled up into one big mess. And so, when you grow up in a dysfunctional home, what you see is you see a lack of goals, a lack of clarity, a lack of hope. You get schooled in chaos. You get schooled in giving up early, not finishing tasks, a whole realm of things that are part of it. And so, when you grow up in that environment, when you hit the peer groups of high school, you're ready to rock and roll. You haven't been influenced strongly. Somebody once said, if you don't believe in something, you're going to fall for anything. And really that is the case. And you're young. And as I thought through what I might say today, so we have a lot of at-risk kids with broken homes, with divorces, with the lack of a strong male influence. And I very much believe in a strong fathering ethic. And I'm not talking about, anything crazy here. I'm talking about a father being firm and strong and being able to adequately love his children and give them strong directives. Founding fathers of the country, really, I do a lot of different things, but my love is American history, and I've studied that. And so we look at the in other times when fathers played a greater role in their families, and so anyway, those are important things. So a fatherless family, you're going to find somebody. You're going to find a gang. You're going to find group. You're going to find people that you want to hang with. And in our culture, there's several factors that make drugs and alcohol accessible, and there's so much of it, and it's so easy to get, and so it's party time.
Yeah, they say that the divorce rates are somewhere around 50%. It's like you got like a 50-50 shot if you're married. It's going to end up in divorce. Our friend Mike Kelly actually just celebrated, what was it, 28 years? 26 years. I just added 2 for you.
God bless you.
I've been
Congratulations.
with her 30 years. 4 years before we got married. So
that's wonderful.
And I know that because of the wonderful world of Facebook. Say hi to Facebook. But
hello, Facebook.
I'm friends with my friend Mike Kelly here. And,
good to see y'all.
And
y'all
got to celebrate with him. But
my grandparents and just a plug for my grandparents. 72 years they were married.
Really?
God bless.
Wow.
72.
Fantastic.
I have a couple that I'm good friends with that are big supporters of our program up here. They're at the beach right now celebrating 58 years. And so
God bless
sometimes
him.
he watches he listens and watches a lot of times when he's here, but right now he's soaking up the rays.
But Jim, your faux pas from a northern point of view was you said beach. In Jersey, of course, we say shore.
Okay.
Don't make that error when you cross the Mason-Dixon line.
We do call it the beach, but when you live in South Florida, guess what happens when you live in South Florida? You don't go to the beach. Anyway, we got a break coming up,
Okay.
but when we come back, it sounds like it said that like if high school was a time of peer pressure and it kind of led you to believe in something.
Yeah.
I guess we'll pick the story up when we get back.
Okay.
All right,
Looking
stay
forward
with us.
to it.
We'll be back in a minute.
All right, cool.
This is Crystal Kelly with
Yeah, see, they had the guy on, and that's what he was talking about. Falkland, the Falkland Islands. John Boy and Billy warned before he came on that they are not responsible. This was all on him if he slipped. And I mean, he came on and he goes, yeah, you got to realize, New Jersey, New York, Brooklyn, Philadelphia, we use adjectives with everything we say. And he said, when I was in college, he said, we were talking about that brief war that England and Argentina had over the Falkland Islands. Well, my buddy got up and he asked the professor, what Falkland Islands are you talking about? I mean, this went on for 5 minutes and he didn't slip. And John Boy and Billy are cracking up in the background. But again, it's the mindset of that part of the world. It's the same thing in Chicago. St. Louis, not so much. St. Louis is more of a southern town in a Midwestern setting.
It's a little bit more like Philadelphia as well.
Yeah.
A lot of strong working class, tough men.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's just that way. And it's the same like Pittsburgh.
I got a
it's
friend.
a Midwestern city in the eastern section of the country.
One of my best friends is from Bayonne. Okay.
Bayonne,
Which is,
yeah.
is literally right across the water. You can you're a stone's throw from New York, and so he is totally the stereotype of he's half Sicilian, half Polish, but he acts more Sicilian. And he and I, when we talk, that's how we talk.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So we
yeah.
we go into the Jersey mode. And boy, you talk about, he's in recovery. And you talk about some stories to tell.
See, it's interesting you bring that up because I made a comment one time when Tago was stinking it up. And I used the term a shellacking in Canarsie. And later in the game, I said, it just, the game went on, I said, it just turned into a beating in Bayonne. And a guy called me the next morning, he goes, what the hell is Canarsie? And I said, they're districts in New York. They're tough districts.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, I didn't know what you, I said, they're just tough boroughs.
Absolutely.
They're tough boroughs.
Of course.
And he couldn't understand that. And he was like, what? But it's that mindset. It's the way it is in that part of the world.
It is.
It's just the way people, I drove a cab when I went to college. It was perfect. You worked when you could. If you had exams, you didn't have to show up. You didn't have to call anybody. When you wanted, it was $1 an hour for the cab. You bought the gas. You paid for what gas you burned. Schmoozed the dispatchers.
Right.
You got good trips.
Yeah.
Made good money. But every cab driver, and those days we all smoked, everybody be outside the garage waiting for the cabs to get ready. F this, F that, GD,
That's Jersey, New York.
SRP, MF for that. It was all, and you'd see somebody across the street, hey, you MF for what the hell? It's just
It really is.
It's just
It really
the way it
is.
is.
It really is.
It is and my wife, very offended by it because she's a St. Louis girl and she's a church-going woman, and that just, her mouth just, I'm like, welcome to the Midwest. This is the big city. Guys, you got 20 seconds. Mics are going hot in 10.
Cool.
And she never could understand that. I said, it's the way of life up there. 10 seconds, mics are hot.
Hey, welcome back to Recovery Talk. We try to bring hope and help for hurting people through this show. And Rob, thank you for being here today, telling your story. But before we get back to it, folks, don't forget about Freedom Auto Tech. Freedom Auto Tech is your local shop here in town that's ready to service all of your mechanical needs for your vehicles. And they're running a couple specials right now, AC checkup and a brake special. Give them a call, 828-355-4434. That's 828-355-4434. Hey, and you know what? They're open Saturdays. So if that's kind of a hard thing around these parts to find a shop open Saturdays. Give them a call. They're ready to put you on a schedule. 828-355-4434. And you can know as a customer of Freedom Auto Tech, the profits from that shop are going to support men in recovery through Freedom Farm Ministries. All right, Rob. So
yes, sir. We're back.
You told us briefly a little bit about family brokenness. There was problems there, and so you said something I like. It's like if you don't believe, say it again.
If you don't believe in something, you're going to fall for anything.
Okay, so you kind of indicated in high school that's kind of when you started to fall for things.
Yeah, I did. I fell for a lot of things, and we thought I went to and I won't name it. You'll know some people who came from this high school, but a very good Catholic high school in New Jersey has produced some real talent, and so it was an absolutely quality education. When I look back in terms of my past life, I kind of, some of my regrets are that I squandered that. I didn't use the love my father put into bringing me there and getting me there. I abused it. I didn't know any better, and so I accept that and let myself off the hook. I did graduate, and I think one of the funny things about it is that when I left there, my last year, I just barely got out. I didn't finish well. And it wasn't that I wasn't capable, but at that moment I was incapable. During those years I was high all the time, coming to school high all the time, smoking weed, loving it, loving every minute of it. I'm going to tell a lot about myself, but I'm not embarrassed by it. It's just life, and it's I think one of the great things about recovery is that we practice honesty, and as that honesty is out there, we're trying to make this thing real. And so, when I graduated, we went to the chapel, the cathedral, which is now a cathedral in New Jersey, And me and the boys went in the woods and we got drunk. So I'm sitting there. My biggest problem graduating, I was holding my bladder the whole time, like let's get this on.
Yeah.
I was kind of, one of the first guys who had long hair in the school, and I think I was popular because of that. And I was a little bit trendy, and but smoking dope, and I couldn't function. And one of the things about marijuana, what literature will tell you and what experience tells us is that if you're smoking a lot of pot, you're probably going to become apathetic. Your motivation, and if you're not goal directed already, and have a plan or an idea where you're going to go in life, then bada boom, and then bad things start to happen. You get bad grades. You're young. You don't understand. You don't have responsibility, and then you might blame it on somebody else. But I think really the irony of my life is that I did get by, but I failed. I failed my last year of Spanish, third year, and I have come to become a high school Spanish teacher, which is an irony. The other thing was I went and I got a master's degree in substance abuse education, so I can't explain that, but those are realities.
I took a remedial math when I first started, going back to college.
Yeah.
And the guy, I had to learn algebra, and the guy that taught my class, first thing he said, "Look, I failed this class 5 times. You're not going to fail." And I was like, "Wow, I like this guy already." So
yeah.
yeah.
So he had a passion.
Yeah, he did. He had a passion for it.
He had a passion, and I think for me, part of my work in addictions is that I have a real love for young people. And I love young men. I love young high school age men, 20s, because one of the advantages, and there are advantages. Don't let this out, but for me there have been some advantages in getting older. And so it's not all. It's not all just losing hair and whatnot. But I mean, for me, I look at young people in this country, and of course it's wider than just the United States. But I see kids who are products of alcoholic homes, who are drinking, who are with the wrong crowds, and all the talent. We look at Olympians, we look at astronauts, and I like the expression, nobody became an astronaut by accident. I just throw that out. And so life requires preparation, it requires determination, it requires a knowing that you can do it, and all that gets destroyed by drugs. And so the jewel that people can become is not going to come to fruition in a lot of cases. It's not going to shine bright. The diamond's not going to get cut. And so I have a passion to see young men overcome. Let's not make any mistake about it. I think one of the greatest lines I have read in any book was by Scott Peck in The Road Less Traveled, and this was one of the eye-openers for me in my own life. His first comment, one sentence, 3 words: life is difficult. Life is going to be difficult if you're an addict, and it's going to be difficult if you're not an addict.
Oh, sure.
Life is just tough stuff, and when you're younger, you don't know that. And the bills are going to have to get paid, and you're going to have to do stuff, and there are going to be demands. And so drugs and alcohol is like a constant recess. It's like the bell has rung, and we ain't going back to school.
Right. And let me avoid difficult life by checking out for a little bit.
And then, of course, it becomes self-perpetuating. Yep. And so I want to see young men get free, get directed, because this has been part of the story of my life. I made it. And this isn't about fame or any of that or money. It's about I have become a person who I like, and whatever my bank account is or whatever else, I like myself. And this has been one of the benefits of being in recovery and in Christian recovery, is developing an identity in Christ, that God loves us.
Absolutely.
There's a support system.
I wanted to just touch on something. This is kind of a side topic, but it's funny, like even me, it's funny you said, I smoked a lot of pot, and people that do that are going to become apathetic. And there's like I consume as much as I can about information that's coming out about about drugs and stuff like that. And man, like I have to be honest with you, I kind of look back on the pot days. I mean, of course it was terrible habit forming stuff, but as far as like when you put it against the other stuff I got involved in, it's like whatever, It's like getting into the liquor cabinet. You know,
Yeah.
those were bad things, and they started me on a real bad path. But
Right.
those things were basically just like whatever. But today, the marijuana today is totally
Yes,
different, man.
of course.
It's like really different.
Yeah, it's what we would want to travel the world to get, the THC potency, which is the active chemical in marijuana.
Right.
The marijuana is much stronger now, and
Like really, like.
yeah.
Like I've talked to somebody that you know that I knew really well growing up that I used to party with, and they still are, you know, haven't found freedom yet through their problems. But like I was talking to them about, and they were like, "Man, you just don't even know what it's like with pot nowadays. They have this wax. You take one small hit," and he's like, and I was like floored sitting on the couch. I couldn't get up for a while.
Yeah.
Like it's scary, you know. It's like. You know, when I did that stuff for a while, I actually started to feel a little bit of like what you might consider withdrawals, like not being able to eat right, not being able to sleep because they're not using this stuff. It was kind of scary to hear. And like the newest, you know, multi-level marketing is, right?
Yeah.
Multi-level marketing. The newest multi-level marketing thing. This is not THC, but it's that whole CBD oil thing. But it's bringing this positive light because people don't know the difference between the two things.
Yeah.
They think CBD oil, marijuana, which is not. They're two different things.
Yeah.
But it's bringing all this positive, all this legalization of it all. And I don't know, man. I kind of wonder on this side. I'm not like trying. I'm kind of wondering if this is going to be something that comes back and bites people in the butt. You know, this because it's like harmless mindset about it.
Yeah, there is, and
But it's not harmless.
We,
you know?
we don't really know. And the studies about, well, this is working in Holland or Portugal or something. I mean, we're talking about countries that are the size of Rhode Island and Idaho put together, and I don't know how you can measure.
Yeah, actually, I forgot that we even talked about that when we had our meeting the other day. But that's that's going to be something good to mention here in just a minute. But we got a break, and when we come back, I think when we come back, let's like maybe talk a little bit what happened after high school, and maybe we'll mention Portugal and we'd say Holland. But anyway, we'll be back. Stay with us. We'll just a few minutes. All right.
We're not on now.
No, we're live on Facebook. It stays flowing.
Okay.
My mom is already back home. Can you believe that?
Are you serious?
Yep.
Where does she live at?
South Florida.
Where at though? In Lauderdale?
Well, she flew into Lauderdale, so she's on her way back from Lauderdale. She's probably watching on her phone or something.
I was in that airport.
There's Nona, Todd, and there's Chris, my sister, and a few people.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Glenn, there's Glenn. Faith.
It's really interesting. You know, it is interesting the way this is all passing because and I'll tell you right now, the reason it is passing is because of the tobacco companies. I can still remember being in college, and I have a criminology minor. And Mr. Witkowski, who was one of my favorite instructors, he showed us, remember those old slide machines?
Of course.
And he was showing us slides and all these big marijuana fields in South America. And he stopped the slide for a minute. Of course, everybody in those days smoked. It's very rare you didn't smoke.
Oh yeah, it's the norm.
And he goes, how many people in this room smoke R.J. Reynolds products? Well, shoot, I smoked Cools.
Cool, you were hardy, weren't you?
You know, and a bunch of our hands all went up. He goes, well, congratulations, because all those fields you just saw are owned by the R.J. Reynolds Tobacco Company.
Really? Is that...
And one day before you realize it, before you all die, those things are going to be packed in cigarettes like you're smoking now, and they will be sold in public. Trust me, the tobacco company will get their way. And I remember asking him after, I said, Mr. Witkowski, why? He said, think about it. Everybody's anti-cigarettes, anti-cigarettes, anti-cigarettes. Well, you gotta combat it another way. So how do you combat it? You legalize marijuana. So while the cigarettes go away, the marijuana comes in. And yeah, a lot of the tobacco companies are the ones that are growing it. R.J. Reynolds is one of the biggest pushers of legalizing marijuana.
I remember saying this because I'd hear that stuff too, and I just
it's true,
I just figured,
Jimmy.
Oh, I believe it. I just never thought it would actually happen. You know, I was like, you know what? I just don't think it's there. But it's actually got like a 67% approval from our country. Like,
Well, Illinois just
marijuana legalization.
Yeah,
It's like a 67% approval rate.
Well, I mean, Illinois just passed it. I mean, they were so strict when I was growing up. I mean, if you got busted with a nickel bag, oh my God! I mean, it was
a
like
scandal.
Yeah,
and
everything.
It was a total,
I mean,
everybody knew.
Yeah.
It was
And they
like,
wanted you to rat out who sold it. I mean, it was crazy.
Oh,
and
my God,
I remember the Navy. He's old enough to remember. Remember the Navy pea jackets?
sure, I had one.
Okay.
In high school.
And if you wore one of those in high school, you were a pothead. Even if you didn't smoke. Okay? And this one girl we knew, Janet, had one. She never touched marijuana in her life. And everybody thought she was a pothead. And we were walking home one day and she goes, we're like 14 years old. She goes, I need to ask you a question. I go, what? Why does everybody give me this goofy look? I said, because you're wearing a Navy pea coat. What's that got to do with it? I said, all the pot smokers wear Navy pea coats.
Right.
And she's like, no. I go, yeah, this is a gift from my grandmother. I said, well, you can keep wearing it. I would. But that's what people are saying.
Maybe your granny was growing pot and selling it, and that's.
I mean, it was unbelievable. And I remember what you're saying, and I could remember back in the 70s when they sold it. It had if you looked at it, if you put it up, it had a red streak in it like this. You remember that? The red line in it. It had a red line in it. That's no longer evident. And I remember living down in Florida, and everybody had the Sensimelia, which was a very, very, very bright green. People were just selling that by the pounds. It's incredible. But see, again, if you do legalize it, you do take the criminal element out of it. Much like you did with the alcohol. You take the criminal element out of it.
There's a business element. I mean, the main thing is that kids should not be going to jail for small quantities.
No, not at all.
That's
not
nuts.
At all.
That doesn't make sense. It's crazy.
And think about what happened at the turn of the last century. All right, this was the land of promise. Everybody wanted to come to the U.S. And so what happens? Everybody freaked out. Oh my God, look at all of these foreigners in our country. Who are these people? Blah, 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 blah. And the next thing you know, the Protestants step in and we're going to go and put in prohibition. You can't have a drink.
Yeah,
great. And you just open the door to organized crime.
Yeah.
And people are making money out of illegal booze.
Well, but it tells you, prohibition.
Lynn says, do you remember the Colombian gold?
Colombian gold. Acapulco gold,
Do I remember it?
Yeah.
Do I remember it?
Acapulco gold,
Yeah,
that was another one.
Yeah,
oh, yeah. Oh, God,
I had
yes.
Colombian red.
Colombian red, yeah. It's a long time ago. I mean, but again, you're taking the criminal element out of it. I mean, that's why Japan legalized prostitution, to get the pimps off the streets.
Japan has the lowest rates of crime in the world.
Exactly. Why? Because they
The highest rate
legalized
of
it.
suicide.
Here we go,
Nobody
Jimmy.
can go. Well, yeah, that has a lot to do with the academic.
Welcome back to Recovery Talk. Jim Quigley here. It's Thursday. We got our friend Rob in the studio, but before we pick back up on his story, just a quick shout out to Freedom Auto Tech, who sponsors the show. Give them a call if you need your car fixed, and know as a customer you are supporting a good cause at the same time through Freedom Farm Ministries, which is a one-year recovery program, Christian recovery program for men. 828-355-4434. That's the number to call. Get put on the schedule. They're doing some brake and AC specials right now. 828-355-4434. Freedom Auto Tech. Give them a call. All right, my friend. So, so out of high school, smoking lots of pot, drinking.
Yeah.
Tell us what happens.
Boy, okay, so what happens? So, I'm leaving high school without a plan.
Mm-hmm.
I'm leaving high school with a dysfunctional family, no real support. Friends who were really not friends. They were all using drugs, and they were about as useful as I was. And so it's not a community of love or support. It was just encouraging each other in a downslide, a bad. And so, really, this is kind of interesting because I can look at my own life. The alcohol laws in New Jersey at the time were 21 to drink, and so, but we were just right across the river from Staten Island. New York was 18, so the weekends it was like an armada. It was just like swim, fly, anything to get over those bridges to get to the little taverns in Staten Island. But then the state of New Jersey, in its mindset, decided they would go ahead and lower the drinking age to 18. And for people like me, that was a disaster. I mean, that was really, couldn't have been worse. Because, and I still remember when the clock at midnight that year when it rolled over, and the bartender buying me a drink, and there would be many drinks after that, because I could purchase it legally. And so I was consuming alcohol and marijuana in equal portion, which was way over the limit. Crazy stuff happening. I'm really fortunate that something really bad didn't happen. I was fortunate for me, I think, at that point, because I never did get arrested, but came very close a few times. And it was a continual downslide, both mentally and physically. First time in my life I'm putting on weight, don't care about anything, situations, and just no hope. And I was, depression was starting to kick in. For a lot of you who don't know, clinical depression tends to kick in if you're disposed to that, and my family had those genes as well as alcoholic genes. Tends to kick in around 20 years old, somewhere around then, both male and female.
So is that where we're at, about in your age, about 20, just a little over?
Right now we're about
Okay.
20, and I'm just I'm just going downhill, not working. I'm just totally without hope, I'm demoralized. I mean, my family background didn't give me hope, and so I'm checking out at a very early age.
Okay.
My lifestyle is just, I'm a wreck. I'm going fast. And then I want to mention one thing that's going to make a little sense here in the beginning. I remember walking, going through the living room one day, and my mother was watching the preacher, Oral Roberts, who was controversial, but I can mention a little more about that. And on TV, and I was a basketball player. And as I'm walking by, they're talking about the basketball programs and all of that great stuff that they had going on there, this university out in Oklahoma. Well, for me, when the subject of religion had come up, I'd scoff, and I'd been hurt by the church and some other things. But I remember it was very pronounced. I stopped for a minute, and I looked at the TV, and I looked at the message, and I said, boy, wouldn't it be great if I could go there? And then I just shook my head, and I said, my God, that's never going to happen. And just walked on and continued in my ways. Well, I want to tell you, and because this is Christian recovery, I want to give my important, what's really important,
Absolutely,
data here. I grew up in a particular faith that has a lot of good points, but it doesn't use the term born again. So for people who don't know what that means, it basically means I believe in Jesus Christ to forgive my sins, and I believe that he is the Son of God and that he came for that purpose, and that if I will surrender my life to him and believe in him, that he will become my God, I will be the follower, he will be the leader, and I'm going to start slowly but surely, not perfection, but start yielding to him, and he's in my life. And so, there I was, a friend of mine, his wife, and he had been a druggie with me, and, Doors concerts and Procol Harum and all the rock groups of the time. And so I met him and his wife on the street one day. He says, come over. Long and the short of it is she started telling me about Jesus and Jesus coming back, and I knew about Jesus. And I'm thinking, I know a lot about Jesus, whatever. But she started talking about Jesus coming back, and I got scared. It's like I'm going, whoa. Gee, that doesn't sound pleasant, what happens if I'm on the outside. And that got me thinking. Well, one day, a few days later, I came back, and his wife had come by the house, and she left a small pocket Bible there and left it with my father and a spiritual book. And I'm going to tell you what happened for me personally. And this is going back to 1975 or 74. The world I existed in, there wasn't love. People didn't do spontaneous things like that. And I was so overcome by the love that she had and cared enough to do this. It made a huge impression on me. So I was always a collector of books. I put that on my table and a little Bible, whatever. And a few days later, I was lying on my bed in my room, and I was really high, using one of the strong marijuanas of the time that we have just discussed in the room, and had reminiscences about, but I'm not gonna promote it over the air. And as I'm lying on my bed, totally high, for the millionth time, I'm looking up and I'm feeling depressed, and I'm feeling miserable and hopeless. And at that moment, an invitation came into my mind, and that it was time to give my life to Christ. And I did it. At that moment, there was no formal prayer. I didn't know what I was doing. I just said, I need a change. I'm willing. And it was because of the love of my friend's wife bringing that small pocket Bible to me. And actually, there's a little bit more to it. I picked up the Bible then to read just before accepting Christ, and the words just, it was like there was electricity, like a broken neon sign. It was like something was going, whoa. And I'm like, this, and I knew it wasn't because I wasn't high. This was unusual. And it was like, whoa. And that was an evidence to me that God, and He gave me a verse, some verses that have lasted to this day. And so I did it, and I just knew there was a change. I just knew it. And the voice comes into my mind, okay, now you got to get rid of your pot. I had a nice little stash there. And I'm going, oh, whoa. So this is premature. Are you sure? Can we talk about this later? And the message was, I was thinking, well, I could sell it and I could get my money back. And of course the idea comes to me, no, that's not the way we do things now. And so the message was, I got to go out into the street and throw it away. Right in the street. I mean, this is crazy. First of all, the money, it was expensive. And number two, it was hard to get in those days. It's like, am I really going to do this? And somehow by a grace, by a power, or somehow I went in the street and I threw it away. And that was the beginning of my recovery. And it got more exciting as I went along. That's a true story that happened. That's not fantasy. That was my reality, and it was the first break with the lifestyle of drugs and alcohol.
Yeah, man. I pray for people to experience those moments. Because I've had similar time. Obviously we don't share the same story, but when you're praying out to God in a state of humility, when you've experienced that, you know what it's like. It's like, I'm truly, humbly asking for help because I know I need it. And I need something different because what I have just ain't working for me. And, usually it's followed by obedience. And that's interesting because I share something very similar. I did a prayer similar to that and asked for help. And help came a week later, didn't come. And I was actually... I had really good health insurance, and I was getting pain medication and selling it. And I actually had to call the guy. I was going to make hundreds of dollars, and I said, I can't do it. Why not? You got to help me out. I'm like, I can't do it. And so something. Well, just leave that money. I did the same thing. It's like, what about that money?
The human
I could really
mind.
use it.
This is why recovery.
I just won't take them.
This is recovery, right? I mean, this is why it's body, mind, and spirit. It not only affects your body, but it's affecting the way we're thinking. The bad decisions we're making because our mind is deranged.
All right, so we're on another break, but when we come back, we're going to have about 12 minutes to finish out our story. But thanks, folks, for hanging in there with us. We'll be back in just a minute.
It's an interesting story, similar to Charles Stanley, Dr. Stanley, during one of his sermons brought this up. He had just gotten done conducting a service. You know how the minister stands by the door at the end and shakes hands. This big dude comes up to him, about broke his hand shaking it, and pulled him close and said, "You saved my life." And he goes, "What?" He goes, "You saved my life." He said, "I used to do drugs very heavily." He said, "I was passed out on the floor of my bathroom. I'd gotten so messed up." And he said, "I was lost. My life was just a mess. It was a train wreck." He said, "As I started coming to, I started hearing you preaching the Word of God. I didn't know anything about it. And I just laid there and listened. And it woke me up. I needed the change." And he straightened out his life and gave it up.
Yeah.
I mean, it happens. People say, "Oh, that's a crock." No, it ain't a crock. If you really believe in God, trust me, it's like I've always said, there's no such thing as a coincidence. It's reality. God sets it up. It's kind of like Tom Landry, the late football coach, once said in his autobiography.
Yeah, I know Tom Landry.
God gives everyone a gift. The major sin is that you throw it away and you don't utilize it. No matter who you are, you have a gift.
Yeah.
And he said, if you don't use it, you're cheating God. And it's kind of like Charles Stanley said one time when somebody asked him, "You talk like this God just forgives everybody. How can that be if you do this, that, and the other?" And he said, "Well," he said, "He's a merciful God and he looks into your heart. And if it's genuine, the forgiveness is there, no matter what you've done." And the guy couldn't believe him. And he goes, "If you say that, you're making God a liar. Because when he tells you you're born again, what he's saying is the past is gone. It's gone. It's where it belongs. Past. From this moment on, we start anew." People can't buy that. 8 seconds. There we go, guys. Mics are hot.
All right, folks, welcome back to Recovery Talk. We are at the end of the show here, last 12 minutes. We got our friend Rob. He's going to finish us out. Before we get started, though, don't forget about Freedom Auto Tech that sponsors the show, 828-355-4434. That's the number to call if you want to get put on their schedule, do an AC and break specials right now, 828-355-4434. They're open Saturdays, and you can know as a customer that the proceeds from the shop are going to support men in Christian recovery. So give them a call. Get your car fixed at a good price by professionals, and know you're supporting a good cause at the same time.
Yeah, man. Honest, too.
So, interesting thing, I actually went to the Bible real fast when you were talking. You were saying that, like, when you had this moment of humble prayer, and actually off air, but on Facebook Live, and anybody listening on the radio, if you want to check the show out, you missed some of it, come in halfway. All the shows are on the Facebook page, Recovery Talk, or you can go to the freedomfarmministries.org, and we post all the shows there also. Over a year's worth now, Mike.
Beautiful.
Can you believe that? But anyway, we off air, we were talking about like Scripture coming alive, right? And so I went to 1 Corinthians 2, and if you go there, if you're listening right now, and you wonder why you don't understand Scripture, it actually literally says in there that you need the Spirit of God in order to understand the things of God. So if you aren't understanding, call out to Him for His Spirit to help you, and He will illumine Scriptures, and that's a good sign when they become alive to you that you are His. So that was great. That's great. Yeah.
Thank God. Yeah.
So I went on a little bit of a side
That's
doctrinal statement there, but
that's okay.
So your recovery starts.
My recovery started.
You've had a long journey, 45 years now.
Yeah.
So in the last 10 minutes or so, tell us a little bit about from that moment of humble prayer.
Yeah.
What has happened, man?
Well, let me just finish up a couple of, and I'm going to try and speak as fast as I can without blurring it. Here is what happened. A few days after that decision, my brother was going into New York City to take care of something, and he was very, he held on to his pot like he's not letting anything go. And remarkably, he says to me, I'm going into York, I don't want to get busted, could you hold my marijuana?
Oh, you got busted.
And I'm thinking, oh, I'm feeling like a super saint now. I mean, my britches are big, and all I've done is just, but I'm thinking, oh, I've already thrown my pot away. I'm something else. Well, my other brother and I, somehow we decided while the cat was away, the mice was going to play. And so I got really high that night, smoked pot, and this is, be aware for those of, when we enter recovery, there's going to be continual challenges, battles, temptations. It's going to happen. It just is. And that's why you need support and community and people who are singing the same song.
Absolutely.
Not the people, places, and things. You got to change stuff. And Christianity provides this, as well as do 12-step groups and groups like that, which I highly encourage. So anyway, I smoke it, but what happens? Well, I got really high. And the next day, somehow, I'd never gotten sick from using drugs, and I don't know what happened, but I got this, I don't even know what it was. I mean, my head felt like it was going to explode, and I was in bed for 9 days.
Oh, wow.
I was in bed for 9 days. I couldn't even move my head. I thought it was going to fly off into space like a spinning top. And here's what came to me. I've made a covenant with you, and you've made a covenant with me, and I'm going to keep my part of the bargain. And that's what I felt God was saying to me. And I got so scared of how sick I got, this is true, that I never used pot again, ever. And so that turned out to be a real gift for me.
Awesome.
Alcohol would then be slowly bled out within the next... I went up to Boston, and I used to love to go up to Boston and drink certain types of alcohols, and that they're prevalent there. And I remember I'm having this weekend with a friend. This is a few months later, and and I'm going, God, this is going to be my last weekend. I'm going to get really high, and so I'm getting totally blitzed the whole weekend, and it was a good man. It was fun. I mean, I enjoyed it. But it did really kind of turn out to be the last weekend. Somehow in my I don't know if it's hypocrisy or naivete or whatever it was, but it did turn out because it didn't fit. I became a Christian and it didn't fit the lifestyle. I'm not talking about people. I've never really been concerned about getting whacked. That's not been my problem. I've not been afraid of like the authorities clubbing me. It's like I was too defiant, and that's been one of my spiritual problems that God's had to work on me with.
I get guys asking me all the time. They're all like this. Just related to what you're saying. They say, well, man, if I'm forgiven, then I can just do whatever the hell I want, right? And I'm like, look, let me just tell you something real quick.
Yeah.
If you're really a child of God, go ahead and try it.
Yeah.
Because you won't be able to. You'll be the most miserable person that I know, and that you know.
Yeah.
So go ahead and try it.
Yeah.
You're not threatening me.
Yeah. It's such a wrong question, but people ask wrong questions all the time.
Sure.
So anyway, we got to find out. And so let me get back to, I mentioned this whole thing about Oral Robertson walking through the, so a few years had gone by, and I was working jobs, and I was progressing, and I was doing great. First time, and I had good jobs, and things were improving. They were getting better, and I was going to prayer meetings and things like that, and I had a good job going into New York every day and whatnot, and so my life was getting better. I had friends from prayer meetings, Christian groups, who were now supporting me, who were filling my time with good people, and I was reading the Bible, and I was growing, and I was getting stable, and stabler. And then one day, I taught a conversation with some friends. I'd gone to Bible college for a year, but I wasn't challenged enough. But I'd grown spiritually. It was a wonderful experience spiritually, just getting deeper and deeper in education. And I met these people over their house, kind of like I met you, and their daughter was going to Oral Roberts University, and she told her story. I'm going, oh my gosh, that sounds good. And it was only a week before school started, and I'm driving down the road, and the radio was on, and there was a commercial promoting Oral Roberts University in Oklahoma. And this is New Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this just doesn't fit, okay? This on the radio, and I'm hearing it. There's still some slots open to enroll in Oral Roberts University. And I have tears welling up in my eyes now as I'm thinking about this, because the next thing you know, I was on a bus, and I saw the lights of Tulsa coming, like the Emerald City coming over the hill when you come into Tulsa, and you see it all spread out across the valley. And these lights, and all I could think of was the Holy Land. And I got there to the university like some unearthly hour, 1 in the morning, and I wanted to get on the ground on my knees and kiss it. Oral Roberts University. I would go on to complete that education, which would be foundational, some of the best years of my life. And you see, if you're listening, when you are in God and in Christ and you've submitted your life to God, things are going to happen for you. And the message of recovery is, we've got illnesses, you know, with these disorders, as it says in the AA big book, are too powerful for us. God has a plan for us. And I know this because I've not only seen it in my life over 40 some years, but I've seen it in the lives of other people. People whose lives were nowhere, on a slippery slope with a to the bottom of the pit. There was no. And God can save you. He can save your immortal soul, and He can also get you into recovery and bring in resources into your life. It's not going to be easy. For most people, it's not going to be, but God will open doors. There will be a path so that you can prosper and live and be happy. I know this is true. This isn't malarkey or words or fantasy. This is 45 years of experience. I hope you'll make that decision if you are struggling with any life problem. That's my hope for you today.
Well, we really appreciate you coming in here and sharing your story. Interesting, again, how small the recovery world is. We met each other a couple days ago, and here we are, better friends for it. But we've run out of time, folks. Next Thursday, we'll be back with another show. So we'll see you here again, 10:30 next Thursday. Thanks
I would
again,
love
man.
to do that, man.
All right,
Beautiful.
we'll talk to you again.
Okay,
All
great. Thanks all, everybody.
Great show, guys. Great information.
Is
Thank
that
you.
was
They
that
hung up.
Oh, okay. I don't know who
No,
that
but
was.
it's true, because that's what I mean. See, and it's kind of like Dr. Stanley said one time. You know, you have to realize.